websites. One of them is gapminder.org, and I downloaded a list of countries in each continent. And then I downloaded another file from wikipedia.org having the population for each country, the percentage of world population, and the population growth rate. So I would like to start by bringing the different Excel worksheets having the information about the different countries in the world. And because it's an Excel workbook, this is a new blank Power BI file. I can click on Get Data and select Excel Workbook, or I can click directly on Excel Workbook on the Home tab in Power BI. Both options are the same. When I click on Excel Workbook, it asks me, where is the Excel file you want to bring? So you go to the Power BI desktop folder, and in Chapter 3, you select Custom Columns. Did you find the file? Custom Columns. I select Custom Columns and I hit Open. A navigator window will open showing me the different contents of this workbook. A workbook might have tables or sheets, or both of them. You can look at this icon with a horizontal blue line representing a table, and this icon represents a worksheet. So if I select Africa as an example, I get a preview of this worksheet. I have a flag column, a name which represents a country name, a capital, and then I have a status column and a key column which is an incremental number. These are the countries in Africa. And I have the same for each and every continent. For this example, I'll be using the tables. But if you want to have a look at the worksheet, then I select Africa. It's almost the same. The problem with worksheet when you have multiple data sets on the same worksheet. So for this exercise, I'm going to check Africa, Antarctica, Asia. I will skip countries and I select Europe, North America, Oceania, and South America. I selected the 7 tables corresponding to the 7 continents. I want to take the 7 tables to Power Query. Then I click on Transform Data. I click on Transform Data. The query editor opens. In the queries pane, I see the 7 queries, 1 query corresponding to each continent. This is Africa. This is Antarctica, Asia, Europe, North America, Oceania, and South America. What I would like to do is to clean and transform the 7 tables And then for the first time, I'm going to combine the 7 queries together into one bigger query, but this time I'm going to put them on top of each other. Let's start by cleaning and transforming the data. I'm going to repeat the same steps, like 5 steps, for each one of the queries. I start with Africa. I want to give it a more user-friendly name. So I just want to keep the continent name and delete everything to the right side of Africa. The flag column was originally a picture of a flag on the web, but when I downloaded it, it comes as an empty column, so it's totally useless. I'm going to remove it. So I right-click the flag column and remove. Also, the status column is almost blank. Why in the world would I keep a blank column? It doesn't help me in my analysis. I right-click and remove the status column. I also want to move the key column to beginning. So I can right-click, move to beginning. And then I want to add an extra column for the continent name. So I click on Add Column. I click on Custom Column. I want to give it the name Continent. And because we'll be repeating the same steps for each one of the other queries, then please make sure that you spell continent the same exact way. And in double quotations, I type Africa and then hit OK. Data types are extremely important. These data types are correct because I have a change type step that was added by the application. But for the new column, continent, I want to change it to text. And that's fine. That's all what I want to do with the Africa query. Were you able to do that? I'm going to repeat the same steps 6 more times. So let's go with the next one, Antarctica. I just want to keep the name of the continent. I select the flag, press Ctrl and select status, right-click and remove columns. I want to move the key column to the beginning. I can do that by dragging. I want to add a column for the continent. Then I click on Add Column, Custom Column. We name it Continent. And for the value, I'm going to type the name of the continent and I hit OK. Don't forget, data type is super important. Change the data type of the new column to text. Let's repeat for Asia. I change the name. I select the flag I select the status column while pressing Control, right-click, remove columns. I drag the key column to beginning, and then I add an extra column for the continent, and in double quotation I type Asia. If you forget the double quotation, you will get an error, and I change it to text. Repeat for Europe. I'll select flag and status, right-click and remove columns. Move the key column to beginning. Add a custom column and name it continent. And someone will ask, is there an easier way of doing this instead of repeating the steps over and over again? And the clear answer, yes, there is. But it's beyond the level of this course. We create something called a custom function in which we store the steps, and then we invoke the custom function on each one of the 7 queries. It will take the same amount of time like what we are doing, so it's more helpful and more useful if I have like 25 different queries. In this case, it will be saving time. And there is another method as well. For each one of the queries I created, if I click on Advanced Editor, let's say on the Home tab, and then I click on Advanced Editor, when I created the steps, there is a code written behind the scene. Of course, in this basic course, we are not covering this code, but I can copy the code and customize it. These are the 2 ways of avoiding repeating the same steps. North America, I changed the name. I select the flag, press Control, select status, remove columns. I move the key column to beginning. Yeah, you didn't type in double quotation. Click on the step, custom column, click on the gear icon and correct it. Add column, custom column. I type continent. And I have to type it in double quotation. This is North America. Very good. Very good. You are in safe hands, my friend. Hit OK. But if you have more difficult questions, ask Linda. North America. I change the data type to text. I go to the next one. Yes, no problem. You can rename it whatever you like. Select the flag, Control, and click on Status, right-click, remove columns. Move the key column to beginning. No, because you are very knowledgeable. And then custom column. Continent. This is I hit OK. Don't forget to change the data type for the new column. Otherwise, we'll get errors when we try to combine the 7 tables. I'm in the last table, and for me, this is South America. Remove columns, move the key column to beginning, custom column, and then continent, and then I name it in double quotation, and I hit OK. I change the data type to text, and I can go back and make sure that I change the data type in all the queries to text, because I don't want to get an error when I combine them. Sometimes we miss a step, but it looks like I did everything fine. Please let me know when you clean the 7 tables. Very good. Now I want to combine the countries from the 7 queries from the 7 continents. If I select Africa, I look at the lower left corner, it says you have 4 columns and 59 rows corresponding to 59 countries. So I'm going to use Africa query as a base for combining all the countries of the world. And to do that, I'm going to duplicate the Africa query. So I right-click Africa and click on Duplicate. So Power Query creates another version of the Africa query, and it gives it an incremental number. And I want to change the name to all countries, so I can simply double-click and type all countries. Right now, the all countries query is just another version of the Africa query, and it has 4 columns and 59 rows. And I would like to put all the other countries below the Africa countries. I want to append them all together. So please make sure you are selecting the all countries query. And to the right side of the Home tab, click on the Home tab. And to the right side of the Home tab, please click on Append Queries. The Append Query dialog box opens, and because I'm appending multiple tables together, then I select 3 or more tables. The dialog box expands, and I see all the queries available. Because all countries is already selected, I see it on the right side. Which queries would you like to append to the all countries? Of course, I'm not going to select Africa because all countries already includes Africa. I select Antarctica, I press Shift and click on South America. I click Add, and now I have all the countries. I started with all countries, 59 rows, and I'm going to append all other countries in the query named all countries. Hit OK. And if you look at the lower left corner, now I can see that I have 269 rows. Do you have the same number We have 269 countries. Now that we combined all the countries of the world together, we need to improve the appearance and clean this bigger query. So I start by splitting some of the columns. Some of the countries have more than one name, like Côte d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast. And the same applies to some of the capitals. And for me, I just want to keep one single name. So I'm going to split the name column, right click, split column by delimiter. And what's your delimiter? My delimiter will be a custom delimiter. So I select custom and I type space opening bracket, because if I have a second name, it will be in brackets. So whenever I see a space and an opening bracket to the left side, I select leftmost. I want to break the column. I hit OK, and I have one single name, and in case I have a second name, I get it in column name 2. Let's remove name 2. Right click and remove. The same applies for the capital. I want to split the capital. Right click, split column by delimiter. It's a custom delimiter. And my delimiter will be space and opening bracket. And I want the leftmost delimiter. And I hit OK. I delete capital 2, right click and remove. So now I cleaned the name column and the capital. I can rename the name column countries, and I can rename the capital one capital. In each one of the original queries, I had a key column and I moved it to the beginning. It was useful and it was meaningful because it was an incremental number. But now I would like to sort the countries alphabetically after combining all the countries of the world in one single query. And to do that, I select the countries column. On the Home tab, I click on A to Z. So I have the countries sorted alphabetically. When I sort the countries alphabetically, the key column is totally messed up. Then I have 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 1, and so on. So the key column is not really useful to me anymore. Then I'm going to remove it. Right click and remove. I'm not really happy to lose the column of incremental number, but what can I do? I definitely need the countries in alphabetical order, but I can build a new column of incremental number. We call it an index column. So if I go to the Add Column tab, I want to create an index column that starts counting at 1. Click on the down arrow, and I select from 1. Now I have a beautiful column of incremental number. I can move it to the left. I still have 269 rows, but I noticed for some countries I don't have the capital. Remember, this is information that I got from the web, so sometimes the information is incomplete. I want to remove the records where I don't have all the information. So I click on the down arrow for capital, and I want to remove these blank records. And I will do that by taking the check away from this blank, and I hit OK. I end up by having 254 rows, and that's fine. Were you able to follow along up to this step? I would like to analyze my data. What am I going to analyze? I have nothing to analyze. I don't have any numeric values to analyze. I just cleaned the data and combined the 7 continents to end up with one single query, all countries. But I don't have any numeric values to analyze. And I downloaded another file from wikipedia.org having some numeric values that can help me with my analysis. So let's go and get another file. To do that, I click on the Home tab, and I want to load this query by clicking on Close and Apply. The numeric values that I want to bring are in a different Excel file. So I'm going to click on Excel Workbook, and from the same folder, I want to bring another Excel file, Country Pops. And I hit Open. Let's have a look at the sheets. I select population by country, and here I have a rank column, a country, a population, a date, the percentage of world population, and a source. Let's have a look at population growth rate. I have a rank, a country, and population growth rate percent. Then I'm going to bring these two sheets. I check the box for the two sheets. And I want to take them to Power Query, so I click on Transform Data. In the query editor, I can see the two queries. And I want to fix some issues. So if I select population by country, I noticed a problem already. The date is left aligned. What does it mean, left aligned? It means it is not perceived as a number. And accordingly, I cannot use a group of DAX functions called date and time intelligence functions. I cannot perform any kind of calculation when it is perceived as text. So I need to change the data type from text to date. And let's replace current. And automatically I get the date right aligned because it's perceived as a number. For the percentage of world population, I want to change it to a decimal number, so I select decimal number. And this time as well, I'm going to replace current. I don't see anything else to do here in this query. So I want to go to the second query, population growth rate, and fix it. Like I did in the population by country, I want to change the population growth rate. It looks like it's perceived as text, but I want to change it to a decimal number. So when I click on the little data type icon and select decimal number, look what happens. Would you like to replace current? This time, let's add a new step. What happens? When I change it to a decimal number, I get some errors. Why am I getting an error? What do we have in common between all the numbers returning an error? If I click on the previous step, I click on the next step, what do we have in common between the numbers returning an error? Very good. Very good. I see they are negative numbers, so if I go to the previous step, I see a negative. But negative numbers shouldn't return an error. I'm going to delete the last step and try to find the solution. when you get data from the internet, you never guarantee what this symbol is. Might be a minus sign, a dash, an underscore, or even a line. And because I don't know, I'm going to copy one of the occurrences. I right-click on the first occurrence of a negative number, and I copy it. I then select the entire column, and on the right side of the Home tab, I click on Replace Values. In the value to find, I paste what I copied. And I delete everything, leaving the symbol at the left. I just leave this symbol. I'm not quite sure what this symbol is. The only thing I know is that it's returning an error when I change the data type, while negative numbers shouldn't return an error. And I want to replace it with, this time I'll be typing a minus sign. So whatever this symbol, I will replace it with a minus sign. I hit OK. And now let's try to do what we failed to do a moment ago. I click on ABC and I select decimal number. And it worked. Then it wasn't a minus sign. Were you able to do that? We previously combined the 7 tables into one single query, all countries. And then we imported 2 other queries, population by country and population growth rate. I want to bring the numeric values side by side in the all countries. So from population by country, I want to bring the population and the percentage of work population. While from the population growth rate, I want to bring the population growth rate percent. And I'll be doing this in the all countries query. And because I want to bring them side by side, that's called merging. When I put them on top of each other, that's called appending. But for this functionality to work, I need to create relationships. And I'm going to do that by applying the changes and go back to Power BI Desktop. Please click on Close and Apply. When I create my visualization, I need a clean interface. So I'm going to use one single query and hide all other queries. So I'm putting all the information into one single query. But the question makes sense. I'm back in Power BI Desktop and I want to create relationships. So I go to the model view. In the model view, I will see the 10 queries. You can collapse to make more room, You can zoom out. And here are the 10 queries. In fact, I'm only interested in all countries, population by country, and population growth rate. So I want to organize my work, putting the 3 queries to the left side, and the other queries, the original queries, I want to put them to the left side, to the right, sorry. It's just a matter of drag and drop. And you might have noticed that Power BI Desktop identified like a relationship, and it created it between population by country and population growth rate. So after moving and rearranging and repositioning my queries, I end up by having these 3 queries, all countries, population by country, and population growth rate. I put them to the left, and I want to have a quick look at this relationship that was automatically identified by the application. So I hover over the line, and unfortunately, it's using the wrong field. It's connecting the 2 queries by using the rank column, which is totally wrong. So I want to delete this relationship and recreate it. I right-click, and then I click on delete. Whatever the relationship you have, please delete it. And I'm going to create the relationships from scratch. How do we create relationships? Exactly like in Power Pivot. I start creating relationship between population by country and population growth rate. Drag and drop. I drag country and drop it over country. And the relationship is created. I also want to create a relationship between all countries and population by country. So I drag countries and drop it over country. And the relationship is created. Finally, I want to create a relationship between all countries and population growth rate. So I drag countries and drop it over country. And I would have created relationships between the 3 tables or the 3 queries. Were you able to create the 3 relationships? Do you notice any difference between the 3 lines? Exactly. What does it mean, a dashed line, a dotted line? What does it mean, a solid line in a relationship? A dotted line means it's not an active relationship, while a solid line means it's an active relationship. And because I have the intention of using the all countries query as the only query for creating my report, then I want this relationship to be an active relationship. I want this line to be a solid line instead of a dotted line. What's the importance? Let's try to change it. I right-click on this line, the two arrows, up pointing and down pointing arrow, and I select Properties. The Edit Relationship dialog box will open, and I have a box that allows me to change the relationship and make it an active relationship. But it will not work. If I check the box, it will return an error. And I have no choice except hitting cancel. Then we need to understand in more details what does it mean an active relationship and what's the importance. Only one single table, one single query can have two solid lines getting out of it. Only one. And the query having two solid lines getting out of it is considered the dominant query. It controls the other two queries. Right now, population by country has two solid lines getting out of it. Then population by country is the dominant query. If you filter population by country, it will filter down the two other queries because it's the dominant query. And because I can only have one single query as a dominant query, then before changing this dotted line to a solid line, in order to make the all countries the dominant query, I need to change this line connecting the two side queries into a dotted line. I need to change this line to an inactive relationship. So I right click, select Properties, take the check away from Make this relationship active, and then hit OK. Then it will become a dotted line. Once it becomes a dotted line, I'm now allowed to go to the original dotted line, coming out of all countries, right-click, Properties, edit the relationship, check the box for Make this relationship active. I don't get an error anymore, and I hit OK. This is considered a business decision. Which source do you trust more? And for me, I decided to consider the all countries the dominant query. It's the only source of truth that I will have, and filtering the all countries will filter down the other queries. Were you able to do that? Why did I create the relationships? In preparation for bringing the fields, the numeric fields, to all countries. So I'll be bringing more fields side by side to the existing fields in the all countries query. From population by country, I will take the population and the percentage of world population. From the population growth rate, I will bring the population growth rate percent. And to do that, I need to go back to Power Query. So please click on Transform Data. I'm back to Power Query, and I want to select all countries. All countries has 4 columns, and I want to bring more columns to the side. And now that I created relationships, I can go ahead and create a merge query. Merging means bringing fields side by side. Please make sure you are selecting all countries. And to the right side of the Home tab, please click on Merge Queries. And because all countries is selected, then I get a preview of the 4 fields. And I want to merge it to another query. I cannot do both of them at the same time. Then I click on the drop list to select another query, and let's say I'll be selecting population growth rate. When I select it, I get a preview. And because I created relationships between these queries, I need to select the matching field, countries and country. There are different kinds of joins when selecting the matching field, and this is the second business decision that I'm going to make. Which source do you trust more? I trust the all countries, then I want all the countries from the all countries query and only the matching countries from the second query. This is what we call a left outer join. Right outer join means the opposite. Inner join means only the matching countries. And by the way, one of the functionalities we use a lot in Excel when we have multiple lists in Excel, let's say a client list or a sales list, and we want to compare multiple versions of the list. There are so many ways of doing that. I can use VLOOKUP functions to extract the matching records or extract the records in list 1 that are not in list 2 or records in list 2 that are not in list 1. Among the different methods for doing the same exact thing is to create a merge query. So that's not our topic, but I'm just giving you a tip that you might find useful in other work situations. I keep left outer join selected, and then I hit OK. That will create a new column having table for each record. A new column is created. What does it mean, table? It means for each one of these records, I have in this table the matching values from the second query. So if I select table, now I can see for this record, the rank, the country, the population, growth rate %. Of course, I don't want to bring the rank. I don't want to bring the country because I already have it. So I select the entire column one more time, and I click on the double side pointing arrow. What do you want to bring? I take the check away from select all, and I just want to bring the population growth rate %. Don't forget, I don't want to use the original column name as prefix, so I take the check away. And I hit OK. And I get the population growth rate % as column number 5 in the all countries query. I will repeat the same exact thing. Select the entire column, or delete a step and repeat it. Okay. With the all countries selected, I want to create a second merge query. So I click on the right side of the Home tab, Merge Query. This time I see 5 columns and I select population by country. We need to select the matching field, countries and country. Left outer join is fine, and I hit OK. I get a column showing table. I want to expand. Deselect all. And this time I want the population and the percentage of world population. And I hit OK. So now I was able to bring all the numeric fields I need for creating my visualization: population growth rate %, population, and percentage of world population. Because the data is coming from different sources, then for some of the records you might see a null. When I see a null for the population, it doesn't mean no one is living in this country. It simply means we don't have this simple piece of small piece of information. And remember, I selected, or I decided as a business decision, to use all countries as the dominant query. And because it won't help me in my analysis, I'm going to filter the population to get rid of the nulls. Click on the down arrow for population and take the check away from null. And then hit OK. I'm down to 235 rows. That's fine. The population growth rate was a different query, so I can still see some nulls. I'm going to filter them out. Click on the down arrow and uncheck the null and then hit OK. I end up by having 219 rows. Do you have the same number? Amazing. I finished cleaning and transforming my data. After cleaning and transforming my data and having all the information I want in the all countries, I'm ready to move to the next step, which is creating my visualization. And to do that, I want to go back to Power BI Desktop by clicking Close and Apply. To create my visualization, I go to the report view. In report view, in preparation for creating my visualization, and because I planned upfront to use the all countries as the only source of truth, and I have all the fields I want, then having the other queries in the report view is just confusing to me. I want to hide them from this view, the report view. And to hide them from this view, I go to the model view one more time. I'll be selecting each and every query and hide it from report view. So if you see these ellipses, you have an option when you click on the ellipses for hiding in report view. You can do that. But if you have the same version of Power BI Desktop, you can simply do that by clicking on the eye icon. The eye icon is crossed, and this query will be hidden in report view. And I repeat for the 10 other queries. Now all the queries, with the exception of all countries, are hidden in report view. This will create a clean interface. If I go back to the report view, I just see all countries. And I'm ready to start creating my visualization. And I want to talk in details about visualizations after our last break. Do you have any questions? Let's take our last break.